I am Lauren, 32, and literally last weekend, my rep as the family overachiever? Yeah, it totally backfired. The success I'd worked my butt off to build, a global tech empire, blew up into a full-on family meltdown at our so-called happy Christmas party. My parents, always fawning over my younger brother Jake, straight up demanded I skip the gathering to avoid stealing his spotlight. When I clapped back, the room went dead silent. "You're too much, Lauren," my mother yelled, with everyone staring like I'd crashed their perfect holiday. But here's the tea. Their shade didn't break me. It lit a spark. I'm not just pushing back, I'm about to flip the script and change everything. A quick note. This story is copyrighted by the YouTube channel Guest Stories. Reposting, revoicing, or editing this content without permission constitutes copyright infringement. Thank you for respecting original creative work. Now, back to the story. The dining room smelled of roasted turkey and cinnamon, but the warmth stopped there. My parents' house, decked out with twinkling lights and a towering tree, felt like a stage set for someone else's life. I stood in the doorway, my coat still on, clutching a bottle of wine I'd brought as a peace offering. My mother, Ellen, barely looked up from arranging the table. "Lauren, you're early," she said, her tone clipped, like I'd already done something wrong. My father, Tom, was fussing with the fireplace, his back to me, while Jake, golden boy Jake, lounged on the couch, scrolling his phone, oblivious to the tension. I'd driven 3 hours from San Francisco to Napa for this annual tradition, knowing it'd be a gauntlet. My family had a knack for making me feel like an outsider in my own story. I'm the CEO of a tech company that's reshaped how people connect online, but to them, I'm just Lauren, the daughter who works too hard and shows off. Jake, 28, with his patchy freelance gigs and charm, was their pride and joy, always had been. I set the wine on the counter, the glass clinking louder than I meant, and my mother's eyes flicked to me, narrowing slightly. "Thought we could use a good red," I said, forcing a smile. She nodded, but her lips stayed tight. I glanced at Jake, hoping for a hello, but he just gave a half-hearted wave without looking up. My stomach twisted, that familiar knot of being unseen. I'd spent years building something extraordinary, sacrificing sleep, relationship sanity, yet here I was still the kid who tried too hard. The spark came when Ellen pulled me aside before dinner. We stood in the kitchen, the hum of holiday chatter filtering through the door. Her hands were on her hips, her silver earrings catching the light. "Lauren," she said, voice low, "we need to talk about Christmas." I braced myself, expecting another lecture about work-life balance. Instead, she dropped the bomb. "We think it's best if you don't come this year. It's Jake's moment to shine, and you tend to overshadow him." My breath caught. Overshadow? I'd spent my life dimming my light for Jake. Every A+ I brought home, every scholarship, every milestone, they'd nod politely, then gush over Jake's mediocre soccer goals or his promising art projects. I stared at her, my fingers curling into my palms, nails biting skin. "You're serious?" I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. "It's for the family," she said, not meeting my eyes. "Jake's been struggling and he needs this." I laughed, a bitter sound that startled us both. "Struggling? He's 28, Mom. What's he doing that's so fragile I can't be in the room?" Her silence was answer enough. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. I could have screamed, could have listed every sacrifice I'd made for this family's approval, but instead, I felt something shift inside me. A door closing. "You know what?" I said, stepping back, my voice steady now. "Fine, ban me, but don't expect me to keep playing this game." I grabbed my coat, ignoring her protests, and walked out into the cold December air. The gravel crunched under my boots, each step fueling a resolve I hadn't felt in years. They wanted me small? I was done shrinking. As I drove away, the twinkling lights of their house faded in my rearview mirror. My phone buzzed. Probably Ellen, already backtracking, but I didn't check. For the first time I saw their rejection not as a wound, but as freedom. I wasn't just going to survive this. I was going to rewrite the rules. The highway stretched out before me, dark and empty. The hum of the engine the only sound breaking the silence. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my knuckles whitening, as the adrenaline from that confrontation ebbed away, leaving a hollow ache in its place. Freedom? Sure, that's what I told myself. But as the miles ticked by, memories flooded in unbidden, pulling me back to the roots of this mess. It wasn't just tonight's ban. It was a lifetime of being invisible, of my light being snuffed out so Jake could bask in whatever dim glow he managed. I let out a shaky breath, wiping at my eyes with the back of my hand, the road blurring for a second before I blinked it clear. How had it come to this? The answer lay in those early years, the patterns set in stone before I even knew to fight them. I remembered one night vividly, like it was etched into my brain, the evening of my high school valedictorian speech. I was 18, buzzing with nerves and pride, my cap and gown pressed perfectly, the medal around my neck heavy with accomplishment. I'd worked relentlessly for it, late nights studying while Jake played video games, skipping parties to tutor myself through advanced calculus, pushing through migraines from the stress. My parents had promised a family celebration after the ceremony, something to mark the occasion. But as we sat around the dinner table that night, the conversation veered away from me almost immediately. Ellen set down a platter of lasagna, her smile bright as she turned to Jake. "So honey, tell us about that goal you scored in practice today. Your coach must be thrilled." Jake, 14 at the time, leaned back in his chair, fork in hand, and launched into a blow-by-blow recounting, his hands gesturing wildly as he described the play. Tom nodded along, chuckling, his eyes lighting up. "That's my boy. You've got real talent there, Jake. Keep that up, and you'll go far." I sat there, my plate untouched, waiting for my turn. The speech I'd poured my heart into it, talking about perseverance and dreams. The applause had been thunderous, classmates hugging me afterward. But here at home, it was like it hadn't happened. I cleared my throat, fiddling with my napkin. "The ceremony was great. Principal Hayes said my speech was one of the best he'd heard." Ellen glanced my way, her expression polite but distant. "That's nice, dear. We're proud of you." Proud? It felt like an afterthought. She turned back to Jake. "Did you hear that, Tom? Jake's team might make playoffs." The conversation flowed around me, their laughter filling the room as I pushed food around my plate. My chest tightened, a mix of hurt and confusion bubbling up. Why wasn't this enough? I'd brought home straight A's, scholarships lining up, but it was Jake's soccer practice that got the spotlight. He caught my eye across the table and smirked, just a flicker, like he knew he had the upper hand without even trying. Later that night, alone in my room, I stared at the ceiling, the metal cold against my skin. Tears pricked my eyes, but I swallowed them down. It wasn't the first time. Flashbacks hit me then too, smaller moments that added up, like when I won the state science fair at 12, building a solar-powered robot from scratch. I'd rushed home, trophy in hand, beaming. Ellen had patted my head. "Good job, Lauren. Now help set the table. Jake's art show is tonight." Jake's finger paintings got framed on the wall. My robot gathered dust in the garage. Or the time I got into Stanford on a full ride. Tom's response? A grunt, and Jake's thinking about community college. We need to support him. Jake had flunked half his classes that year, but they threw him a party for trying. Back on the highway, I swerved slightly as a truck passed, honking, jolting me from the reverie. My hands trembled on the wheel. It was always the same. My achievements dismissed as expected. Jake's mediocrity celebrated as triumph. He'd charm his way through life, late to everything, half-assed efforts, but they saw potential. I was the reliable one, the one who didn't need coddling, so I got none. The band tonight? It was the culmination. They couldn't risk me shining too bright at Christmas, reminding everyone of Jake's shortcomings. My phone buzzed again in the cup holder, 3 missed calls from Ellen now. I imagined her pacing the kitchen, wringing her hands, realizing she'd gone too far. But I didn't pick up. Let them sit with it. As the city lights appeared on the horizon, a quiet anger settled in my gut, not the explosive kind, but a steady burn. I'd always made excuses for them. Maybe they didn't mean it, maybe it was unintentional favoritism. But seeing it laid bare tonight stripped away the illusions. Jake wasn't struggling. He was coasting on their endless validation. And me? I'd built an empire in the shadows, hiding my success to avoid their discomfort. No more. The road ahead felt symbolic, leading back to my life in San Francisco where I called the shots. But the hurt lingered, a raw edge I couldn't ignore. How many times had I dimmed myself? The answer was too many, and it ended now. I pulled into my driveway just after midnight, the house dark and quiet. Unlocking the door, I kicked off my shoes, the echo loud in the empty space. My reflection in the hall mirror caught me, eyes red-rimmed, jaw set. this wasn't just about one holiday ban. It was about reclaiming the visibility they'd denied me. Tomorrow, I'd dive back into work, into the deal that could skyrocket my company. But tonight, I let the memories wash over me, fueling a resolve that felt unbreakable. They thought banning me would keep things balanced. It would only make me rise higher. Rising higher. That phrase echoed in my mind as I slumped onto the couch in my living room, the weight of the drive settling into my bones. The house was too quiet, the kind of silence that amplified every thought. I poured myself a glass of water, the faucet's drip punctuating the stillness, and sat there staring at the blank TV screen. My reflection stared back, distorted in the glass. Tired eyes, messy hair from the wind. The ban stung more than I wanted to admit, but it also cracked open something I'd buried deep. The realization that my family's dismissal had fueled my greatest secret. My company, Nexus Connect, wasn't just a job. It was my rebellion, built in the shadows of their neglect. And it all started with that one pivotal night 5 years ago, the aha moment that changed everything. I was 27 then, fresh off another family gathering where Jake's latest big idea, some vague plan to start a podcast, had dominated the conversation. I'd mentioned a promotion at my old tech firm, but Ellen had waved it off. That's great, but Jake's really onto something creative. I drove home that night seething, my hands clenching the wheel so hard my fingers ached. Why did I keep seeking their approval? It hit me like a thunderclap as I pulled into my driveway. I didn't need it. What I needed was to build something undeniable, something that proved my worth to myself. Tech had always been my escape, coding late into the night, losing myself in algorithms that made sense when people didn't. But that night, it crystallized. I could create a platform that connected professionals globally, cutting through the noise of favoritism and hierarchies. No more waiting for validation. I'd code my own. I didn't sleep much after that. Instead, I booted up my laptop at the kitchen table, the screen's glow the only light in the dark apartment. My fingers flew over the keys, sketching out wireframes for what would become Nexus. It was rudimentary at first, a simple app for virtual networking events, but the idea burned bright. I sipped cold coffee, ignoring the clock ticking past 2 a.m., my mind racing with possibilities. What if it integrated AI to match mentors and mentees based on real compatibility, not nepotism? What if it leveled the playing field for people like me, overlooked in their own circles? The excitement bubbled up, pushing out the hurt from the family dinner. For the first time I felt in control. But the struggle kicked in fast. Quitting my stable job was the first hurdle. I sat in my boss's office 2 weeks later, my resignation letter folded in my lap, palms sweaty. "Lauren, you're one of our best," he said, leaning forward, his tie askew. "This startup thing, it's risky." I nodded, throat tight, but I thought of Jake getting endless second chances. "I know," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt, "but I have to try." Walking out, the office buzz fading behind me, doubt crept in. No safety net, just savings that would last 6 months if I stretched them. The grueling late nights became my routine. My apartment turned into a war zone. Takeout containers piled on the counter, sticky notes plastered across walls with code snippets and bug lists. I'd code for hours, eyes burning from the screen, fingers cramping on the keyboard. One night stands out. It was 3 a.m., rain pattering against the window, and I'd hit a wall with the AI matching algorithm. Errors kept popping up, red lines mocking me. I pushed back from the desk, rubbing my temples, frustration boiling over. "Why won't this work?" I muttered, pacing the room, my socks sliding on the hardwood floor. Tears threatened, but I swallowed them, thinking of Ellen's dismissive glances. No, I wouldn't fold. I brewed more coffee, the machine gurgling like a lifeline, and dove back in. Tweaking variables, running tests. Finally at dawn it clicked. The algorithm matched profiles flawlessly in a simulation. I fist-pumped the air, laughing alone in the quiet, a surge of triumph washing away the exhaustion. Funding was the next battle. I pitched to investors in cramped coffee shops, my laptop propped on shaky tables, heart pounding as I demoed the beta. Rejections piled up, too niche, not scalable, their polite smiles not hiding the doubt. One guy, mid-40s with a slick suit, leaned back after my presentation. "Impressive, but who's backing you? Family?" I hesitated, then lied smoothly. "Just me," he chuckled. "Gutsy, but we need more traction." Door after door slammed, each one echoing my family's indifference. But I persisted, cold emailing hundreds, my inbox a graveyard of no's. Then, a breakthrough. A small angel investor, impressed by my persistence, wired $50,000. I stared at the bank notification on my phone, hands shaking, a grin splitting my face. It wasn't much, but it was fuel. The ascent picked up speed. I hired my first employee, Sarah, a sharp coder I'd met at a hackathon. We worked from my living room, laptops on our knees, brainstorming over pizza. "This could be huge," she said one evening, scrolling through user feedback. Early adopters trickled in, professionals tired of LinkedIn's noise. Word spread, downloads climbing. I kept it hidden from family, dodging questions with freelancing. Why share? They'd downplay it, compare it to Jake's latest whim. Milestones blurred, hitting 10,000 users, securing Series A funding. I remember the boardroom where it happened, polished table, city skyline outside. Investors nodded as I presented growth charts, my voice confident now, no trace of the girl who'd been overlooked. Nexus isn't just an app, it's a revolution in connections. They signed, $5 million in the bank. I walked out, heels clicking on marble, but inside I was screaming with joy. Calls with global partners followed. Late-night Zooms where I'd mute to yawn, hiding the fatigue. By last year, Nexus was a global corporation, offices in 3 countries, me at the helm. I'd stare at the user dashboard, numbers ticking up, millions connected, careers launched, but the success stayed secret from them. No gloating posts, no invites to launches. It was mine, untainted by their favoritism. Now, back on my couch after the ban, that secret felt like armor. The hurt from tonight morphed into clarity. They tried to make me small again, but I'd built an empire in response. My phone lit up, another text from Ellen, "Come back, we can talk." I deleted it, standing to stretch, muscles sore. Tomorrow, the big deal loomed, a merger that could double our reach. But for now, I headed to bed, the weight lifting. This wasn't just success, it was proof. They couldn't ban that. But to really grasp how that night unfolded, I need to take you back to earlier that day, the eve of what I thought would be just another obligatory family gathering. It wasn't the Christmas party itself, not yet. But the pre-holiday dinner my parents always hosted a week before, where we'd exchange small gifts and catch up. Little did I know it would become the stage for their ultimate rejection. That morning, I was in my San Francisco office, the city fog pressing against the floor-to-ceiling windows, while my team buzzed around me finalizing the biggest deal of my career. Nexus was on the brink of a merger with a European tech giant, one that would catapult us into billionaire territory and solidify my legacy. But instead of celebrating, I was distracted, my mind already drifting to the drive up to Napa, the knot in my stomach tightening with every tick of the clock. I sat at my desk, the sleek glass surface cluttered with printouts of the merger terms, my laptop open to a spreadsheet of projections. Numbers danced on the screen, user growth at 300%, revenue forecasts that made my heart race. Sarah, my right-hand woman, poked her head in, her ponytail swinging as she held up a tablet. "Lauren, the lawyers just sent over the final revisions. We sign tomorrow if all goes well." I nodded, forcing a smile. But my fingers drummed on the desk, a restless rhythm. "Great, let's review them one more time." We spent the next hour poring over clauses, her pen scratching notes, while I highlighted sections, my mind half there. The deal was everything I'd built toward. Global expansion, stock options that would change lives, but the impending family dinner loomed like a shadow, dimming the excitement. As we wrapped up, I leaned back in my chair, the leather creaking under me. "This could be it, Sarah, the game changer." She grinned, packing up her things. "You've earned it, go crush that family thing tonight." I laughed weakly, waving her out, but once alone, the facade cracked. I stared at my reflection in the window. Sharp suit, hair pulled back, the picture of success. But inside, I felt like the overlooked kid again. Why did I still go to these dinners? Habit? Hope? Every year it was the same. Drive up, endure the subtle digs, drive back emptier. But this time, with the merger hanging in the balance, I couldn't afford the emotional drain. Still, I packed my bag, slipping in the merger docs for a final read on the road, my hands lingering on the folder as if it were a talisman. Leaving the office, the elevator dinged softly, descending through floors of humming servers and collaborative spaces I'd designed myself. Employees nodded goodbye, their respect evident in quick smiles, but it did little to ease the dread. In the parking garage, I slid into my Tesla, the door closing with a solid thunk, and adjusted the rearview mirror. My eyes looked tired, shadows under them from late nights prepping the deal. I started the car, the electric hum vibrating through the seat, and pulled out onto the street, traffic crawling under gray skies. My phone pinged, a reminder from my calendar, family dinner, 6 p.m. I sighed, merging onto the highway, the Bay Bridge arching ahead like a gateway to the past. The drive gave me too much time to think. I fiddled with the radio, switching from news to a playlist of upbeat tracks, but nothing stuck. Instead, memories surfaced. Last year's dinner, where I'd mentioned a big funding round, and Tom had changed the subject to Jake's new car. "He's really turning things around," he'd said, while Ellen beamed. I'd swallowed my frustration, toasting politely. Now with the merger, I debated even mentioning it. Why bother? They'd twist it into, "Lauren's showing off again." My grip tightened on the wheel, leather creaking as I accelerated past a slow truck. The merger call was set for tomorrow morning. Partners in Berlin ready to seal it. I couldn't let family drama derail me. Halfway there, I stopped at a gas station for coffee, the fluorescent lights harsh as I poured a large black steam rising in curls. The cashier, an older woman, chatted idly. "Heading home for the holidays?" I nodded. "Paying with a tap of my card." "Something like that." Back in the car, I sipped the bitter brew, burning my tongue slightly, and checked my emails. One from the lead investor. "Excited for tomorrow. This is your moment." A warmth spread through me, countering the chill of anticipation. This deal wasn't just business, it was validation, proof that my invisibility at home didn't define me. I set the cup down, careful not to spill, and resumed driving, vineyards starting to line the road as Napa approached. By the time I pulled up to my parents' house, the sun was dipping low, casting long shadows over the manicured lawn. I sat in the driveway for a minute, engine off, staring at the front door. Lights glowed inside, figures moving behind curtains, probably Ellen setting the table, Tom stoking the fire. Jake's car was already there, parked crookedly. My heart thudded, a mix of resentment and reluctant affection. I grabbed the bottle of wine from the passenger seat, fingers wrapping around the cool glass, and stepped out, heels sinking slightly into the gravel. The air smelled of wood smoke and pine, festive but foreboding. I straightened my jacket, practicing a neutral smile in the side mirror, lips curving but eyes flat. Walking up the path, I paused at the door, hand hovering over the knob. What if I just turned around? But no, I'd come this far. I twisted the handle, the door creaking open, and stepped inside, the warmth hitting me like a wave. "I'm here," I called, voice echoing slightly. Ellen appeared from the kitchen, apron tied, her expression a mix of relief and something guarded. "Lauren, good. Traffic okay?" I nodded, handing over the wine, our fingers brushing briefly. She took it without comment, turning back. The house felt the same, photos on the walls, mostly of Jake's milestones, mine sparse. I hung my coat, smoothing my shirt, steeling myself for the hours ahead. As I moved toward the living room, Tom glanced up from his chair, newspaper in hand. "Hey kiddo?" Jake waved from the couch, phone in lap. The tension was palpable, like they were all waiting for something. I sat down, crossing my legs, hands folded to hide the slight tremble. Conversation started light, weather, holiday plans. But I sensed the undercurrent. My mind wandered to the merger, the emails waiting on my phone. If only they knew. But I kept it locked away, sipping water from a glass Ellen brought, the ice clinking softly. Little did I know, the judgment was coming sooner than I thought, and it would force me to confront everything. The evening wore on slowly, appetizers appearing, cheese and crackers on a platter. I picked at them, stomach too knotted for hunger, while Jake monologued about his latest gig. Ellen nodded enthusiastically, her earrings swaying. I interjected once about a recent trip, but the topic shifted back. My phone vibrated in my pocket, a text from Sarah. "All set for tomorrow?" I slipped it out under the table, typing a quick yes, thumb pressing send. The secrecy felt like a shield, but also a burden. As dinner neared, the dread peaked, my foot tapping subtly under the table. This was supposed to be family time, but it felt like a trial. And the verdict? It was about to drop. The verdict was about to drop, but it didn't come all at once. No, it started slow, like a drip that turns into a flood. We moved from the living room to the dining table, the chairs scraping against the hardwood floor as we settled in. Ellen placed a steaming casserole in the center, her movements efficient, almost mechanical, while Tom carved the ham with deliberate slices, the knife glinting under the chandelier light. I sat across from Jake, who was already piling food onto his plate, fork in hand like he owned the place. The air was thick with the scent of garlic and herbs, but my appetite had vanished, replaced by a churning unease. I served myself small portions, the spoon clinking against the dish, trying to blend in, but their eyes kept flicking my way, loaded with unspoken judgments. It began innocently enough, or so it seemed. Ellen passed the rolls, her smile tight as she looked at me. "So Lauren, how's work going? Still buried in that computer stuff?" Her tone was light, but the words landed like a backhanded compliment, reducing my empire to computer stuff. I nodded, buttering a roll slowly, the knife spreading evenly as I chose my response carefully. "It's good, busy, but we're expanding." I kept it vague, not wanting to invite more scrutiny, but Jake snorted from across the table, mid-bite, his cheeks bulging slightly. "Expanding? What, like adding more screens to stare at?" He chuckled, wiping his mouth with a napkin, eyes gleaming with that familiar mix of amusement and superiority. Tom joined in with a low laugh, setting down the carving knife. "Jake's got a point. You should get out more, Lauren. Life's not all algorithms and deadlines." I felt my jaw clench, teeth pressing together as I forced a smile, my fingers gripping the fork a little tighter. They had no idea Nexus was negotiating a merger that would value us at over $1 billion, but even if they did, it'd be twisted into something negative, like I was neglecting real life. Ellen steered the conversation, but not away. "We're just worried about you, dear. You look tired. When's the last time you dated someone?" Her eyes softened falsely, like this was concern, not a dig. I poked at my ham, the meat shredding under my fork, buying time. "I'm focused on the company right now. It's paying off." But she pressed on, tilting her head. "Paying off how?" "Jake here's starting his own thing, a consulting gig. He's got clients lined up already." Jake leaned back, arms crossing smugly, his chair creaking. "Yeah, it's flexible, not chained to a desk like some people." The barrage kept coming, each question laced with condescension. Tom chimed in next, pouring wine with a steady hand, the liquid glugging into glasses. "Remember when you were kids? Lauren always with her nose in a book, Jake out making friends. Balance is key." He slid a glass my way, but I left it untouched, my throat too tight to swallow. Balance? I'd balanced their expectations my whole life, dimming myself so Jake could shine. Now as an adult, it was the same script. I glanced around the table, their faces lit by the warm glow of candles, but the atmosphere was anything but cozy. My foot tapped under the table again, a silent rhythm of frustration. I tried to deflect, asking about their plans. "What about the holidays? Any trips?" But Ellen waved it off, her bracelet jingling. "Oh, we're keeping it simple. Jake might bring a date to Christmas, someone special." She beamed at him and he grinned back, while I sat there, the implication clear. I was the one without someone special, the workaholic spinster. The questions turned sharper. "Do you even have time for friends, Lauren?" Jake asked, spearing a vegetable, his tone casual but cutting. "Or is it all board meetings and emails?" I met his eyes, my voice even. "I have a team. Good people." But he rolled his eyes slightly, a subtle move that didn't escape me, his shoulders shrugging dismissively. Tom nodded along, dabbing his mouth with a napkin. "Teams are fine, but family's irreplaceable. You should prioritize that more." The hypocrisy burned. Here they were, belittling me at a family dinner, my hands folded in my lap, nails digging into palms to keep calm. Ellen reached for seconds, her plate scraping as she served herself. "We're proud of your ambitions, Lauren, but sometimes it feels like you're in another world. Jake keeps us grounded. He calls every week." Jake nodded, mouth full, giving a thumbs up. Grounded? He lived off odd jobs and their handouts, but that was relatable. The compliments, when they came, were the worst. Backhanded barbs, disguised as praise. "You're so independent," Ellen said, her fork gesturing at me. "We never have to worry about you." Translation: "We don't bother with you." I pushed my plate away slightly, the food barely touched, stomach roiling. "Thanks," I muttered, but inside the hurt piled up, with each word a brick in the wall they'd built around me. Jake leaned forward, elbows on the table. "Hey, if your company's so big, why not hook me up with a job? Kidding, sort of. He laughed, but his eyes searched mine, testing. I froze, the merger docs in my car flashing in my mind. Hook him up? After years of this? I changed the subject, asking about neighbors, but they circled back. You should slow down, Lauren, Tom advised, his voice paternal. Burnout's real. Look at Jake, he takes time for himself. Jake preened, sipping his wine. The room felt smaller, the chandelier light too bright, highlighting every fake smile. My phone vibrated in my pocket. A work alert probably, but I ignored it, focusing on breathing steadily, in and out. This gauntlet was endless, each remark chipping away at my resolve. As dessert appeared, pie with whipped cream, Ellen served slices, her knife cutting precisely. Here, Lauren, you need some sweetness in your life. The table chuckled, but I just nodded, taking a small bite, the crust crumbling. The contempt was woven into every interaction, making me feel like an intruder. But beneath the hurt, anger simmered, hot and ready. They thought this was normal, but I was reaching my limit. Little did they know, the verdict they were building toward would backfire spectacularly. The evening dragged, coffee poured into mugs, steam rising as conversation lagged. I checked my watch discreetly, wrist twisting under the table. 9 p.m. The merger call was early tomorrow. I needed to leave soon. But Ellen wasn't done. We just want what's best for you, she said, stirring her coffee, spoon clinking. Best? This wasn't it. Jake yawned theatrically, stretching. Yeah, sis, loosen up. Sis. The word grated, false familiarity. Finally I stood, chair pushing back with a scrape. I should head out, long drive. Their faces shifted. Surprise, then something like relief. Tom nodded. Drive safe. No hugs, just awkward waves. As I grabbed my coat, the weight of their words hung heavy, but so did my secret strength. Stepping into the night, door clicking shut behind me, the cold air cleared my head. The gauntlet had bruised me, but it hadn't broken me. If anything, it steeled me for what was coming. But before I could reach the door, Ellen's voice cut through the air like a knife, sharp and unyielding. Lauren, wait, we need to talk before you go. I froze, hand on the doorknob, the cold metal grounding me as I turned slowly. The living room light spilled into the hallway, casting long shadows. Tom was still at the table, napkin crumpled in his fist, while Jake leaned against the doorframe to the dining room, arms crossed, a curious tilt to his head. Ellen stood up, her chair scraping back with a harsh sound that echoed my unease. She smoothed her apron, fingers twitching at the edges, a telltale sign of nerves she rarely showed. I let go of the knob, coat draped over my arm, and faced her. What now? My voice was flat, exhaustion seeping in after the hours of subtle jabs. She gestured back to the table, but I didn't move, rooting myself in the entryway. The air felt thicker, charged with whatever bomb they were about to drop. Tom cleared his throat, folding his hands on the tablecloth, his knuckles whitening as he gripped them together. Sit down, Lauren. This is important. Jake shifted his weight, foot tapping lightly on the floor, eyes darting between us, like he was watching a show. I hesitated, then walked back, dropping my coat over the back of my chair, but staying standing, arms folded to mirror his. The pie sat half-eaten, forks abandoned, the whipped cream melting into sad pools. If it's another lecture on balance, save it. I have an early morning. Ellen exchanged a glance with Tom, her lips pressing into a thin line before she spoke. It's about Christmas, the party. My stomach dropped, a cold wave washing over me. I'd sensed something brewing all night, the way they'd circled around Jake's struggles, the pointed questions about my life. But hearing it now, in this moment, made it real. She continued, voice steady but her eyes avoiding mine, focusing instead on a spot over my shoulder. We've been thinking, it's best if you don't come this year. The words hung there, simple but devastating. I stared at her, breath catching, my fingers digging into my arms. Don't come? To the family Christmas party, the one tradition we'd clung to through everything? Tom jumped in, his tone paternal, like he was explaining something obvious. It's for Jake, he's had a rough year and we want him to feel special. Your successes, they can be overwhelming. It overshadows him. Jake nodded subtly, his jaw clenching for a split second before relaxing into a neutral expression, but I caught it, the flicker of satisfaction in his eyes. Overwhelming? I'd barely spoken about work tonight, tiptoeing around it to avoid exactly this. My mind raced, flashing to all the times I'd held back, praised his half-baked ideas while swallowing my own milestones. And now, banishment? I laughed, a short, incredulous bark that surprised even me, echoing off the walls. Overshadow him? By existing? What, should I show up in a potato sack and pretend I'm unemployed? Ellen flinched, her hand rising to her chest, fingers clutching the necklace there. A gift from Jake, years ago. Don't be dramatic, Lauren, it's one holiday, for the family's sake. The family's sake, always that excuse, as if I wasn't part of it. Tom leaned forward, elbows on the table, his chair creaking under the shift. We've talked about this, Jake needs support right now, your life is so big, it makes him feel small. Jake finally spoke, pushing off the doorframe, his hands slipping into his pockets casually, but his shoulders were tense. Come on, sis, it's not a big deal, I'll tell you all about it after. His voice was light, almost playful, but the undertone grated, like he was already picturing the party without me, him in the center. I turned to him, heat rising in my cheeks, my nails biting into my skin. Not a big deal? You're 28, Jake. When do you stop needing mommy and daddy to clear the room so you can shine? He blinked, taken aback, his mouth opening then closing, a flush creeping up his neck. Ellen stepped closer, her voice rising now, laced with frustration. That's unfair. We've always supported you both, but you don't need it like he does. You're strong, independent. Strong? It sounded like a curse. Tom stood, his height filling the space, hand raised placatingly. This isn't permanent. Just this year. Give him space. Space. From me. The rejection hit like a punch, my vision blurring for a second as I blinked back the sting. I'd driven here hoping for connection, enduring their digs, and this was the payoff. Official exclusion. The conversation escalated from there, voices overlapping in a chaotic symphony. Ellen paced a small circle, her slippers scuffing the rug. You make everything about you, Lauren. Your job, your achievements, it's exhausting. I shot back, voice cracking slightly. Exhausting? I've never rubbed it in, I hide it to avoid this crap, Tom interrupted, pointing a finger. Language. We're trying to keep peace. Peace? By disowning me for a holiday? Jake chimed in again, voice louder. You do overshadow, whether you mean to or not. People ask about you and it steals the focus. I felt cornered, the walls closing in, my heart pounding in my ears, micro-movements amplified, Ellen's fingers twisting her ring, Tom's averted gaze, Jake's subtle smirk he tried to hide by looking down. It was a united front, years of favoritism boiling over into this formal verdict. So that's it? I asked, voice quieter now, the fight draining. I'm banned, cut off from Christmas, Ellen nodded, tears welling but not falling. It's for the best, we love you but, always a but. The silence after was deafening, broken only by the tick of the grandfather clock in the hall. I grabbed my coat again, movements jerky, the fabric rustling loudly. Fine, if that's how you want it, consider me gone. Not just for Christmas, for good. Tom's eyes widened, hand reaching out. Lauren, don't. But I was already at the door, twisting the knob, the cold night air rushing in like a lifeline. Jake called after me, Sis, come on, but it was half-hearted, his feet not moving. Stepping onto the porch, the door slammed behind me, the sound final. My breath came in visible puffs, hands shaking as I fumbled for my keys. Disowned, essentially, for being too successful, too much. The gravel crunched under my heels as I hurried to the car, sliding in and slamming that door too. The engine roared to life, headlights cutting through the dark. As I backed out, their silhouettes appeared in the window, watching, but not chasing. The verdict was in. I was out. But in that moment, tears streaming down my face, wiping them angrily with my sleeve, I realized it wasn't just rejection. It was liberation. They couldn't control me anymore. The drive home blurred, but my resolve sharpened. This was the head. Months later it would explode when Jake walked into my world unaware. The drive home blurred, but my resolve sharpened. This was the head. Months later it would explode when Jake walked into my world unaware. Those first few weeks after the ban were a whirlwind of deliberate detachment. I threw myself into work, finalizing the merger that pushed Nexus into the stratosphere, our valuation hitting headlines I didn't share with anyone from home. Calls from Ellen went unanswered, texts from Tom deleted unread. Jake sent a half-assed, sorry if that was harsh message, I blocked him. Christmas came and went. I spent it alone with takeout and a bottle of champagne, toasting my freedom in the quiet of my apartment, the tree lights reflecting off the glass. No regrets, just a growing sense of peace. By spring the family was a distant echo. their dysfunction no longer my anchor. I'd built new routines, yoga mornings, dinners with Sarah and the team, even a tentative date or two that didn't pan out but felt like progress. Life moved forward, unburdened. Then, one Tuesday in April, the twist landed in my inbox like a grenade disguised as routine. I was in my corner office, sunlight streaming through the blinds, casting stripes across my desk. The space was minimalist, white walls, a single abstract painting, my laptop humming softly as I reviewed quarterly reports. Numbers glowed green, user base up 40%, partnerships solidified. I sipped my latte, foam clinging to the cup, feeling grounded in this empire I'd forged. Sarah knocked lightly on the open door, her tablet in hand, ponytail swinging as she entered. "Morning, boss. HR flagged something weird on the new hires shortlist." She slid the tablet across the desk, her brow furrowed slightly, fingers tapping the edge. I set down the cup, the ceramic clinking against the wood, and pulled the device closer. The screen showed resumes for a mid-level marketing role, solid candidates, but one name jumped out: Jacob Harlan. Jake, my brother. I blinked, staring at the photo attached. Him in a button-down, smiling that charming grin, the one that always got him out of trouble. My stomach twisted, a cold knot forming as I scrolled through his application. Freelance experience, vague references to consulting gigs, skills listed as creative problem-solving, and team player. No mention of family ties, of course. He had no idea I ran Nexus. To him, it was just another job posting on some site, a shot in the dark. "How did this get through?" I asked, voice steady but my fingers gripping the tablet tighter, knuckles paling. Sarah shrugged, leaning against the chair opposite me. "Blind screening." His resume hit the keywords: social media strategy, content creation. Interviews set for Thursday with the marketing lead. Thursday, 2 days away. I leaned back, chair swiveling slightly, my mind racing. Part of me wanted to reject it outright, trash the app, pretend it never happened. But another part, the one sharpened by months of reflection, saw opportunity. Not revenge exactly, but confrontation. Force the dysfunction into the light, on my turf. I handed back the tablet, exhaling slowly, the air escaping in a controlled puff. "I'll handle the interview myself. Reschedule it to my calendar." Sarah's eyes widened, hand pausing mid-reach. "You? But, is there a conflict?" She didn't know the details, only that I'd cut family ties. I met her gaze, forcing a neutral smile, lips curving but not reaching my eyes. "Personal matter, trust me." She nodded, though curiosity flickered and backed out, door clicking shut softly behind her. Alone, the office felt smaller, the hum of the AC louder. I stood, pacing to the window, hands clasped behind my back, fingers interlacing tightly. Jake, interviewing here. Unaware that the CEO was his banished sister. The irony burned. Him seeking a job at the company he'd indirectly mocked, the one built from the scraps of their neglect. My reflection in the glass showed a composed woman, but inside, emotions churned. Anger at his audacity, hurt resurfacing like an old bruise, the get and a strange thrill at the power shift. I'd imagined scenarios of triumph, but this? Handed on a platter. I sat back down, pulling up his resume again, mouse clicking deliberately. Gaps in employment, exaggerated achievements, like that successful podcast that lasted 3 episodes. My lip curled slightly, a mix of pity and resentment. He'd coasted always while I grinded. Now he'd walk in expecting a standard interview, charm his way through, but I'd be there, revealing everything. Not to humiliate, though the temptation nagged, but to demand accountability. Therapy, maybe. Force them to face the favoritism, the damage. The rest of the day blurred in meetings, but Jake's face lingered in my mind. During a strategy call, I zoned out briefly, pen tapping on my notepad, leaving ink dots like Morse code for turmoil. Colleagues discussed metrics, voices overlapping via speakerphone, but I nodded mechanically, thoughts elsewhere. What would he say? Would he bolt, or finally see me? By evening, as the sun dipped, painting the office orange, I prepped, printed his resume, jotted notes in the margins. Questions not just about skills, but probing deeper, subtly at first. Home that night, I cooked stir-fry, vegetables sizzling in the wok, steam rising as I stirred vigorously, the spatula scraping metal. The kitchen smelled of ginger and soy, but my appetite was off. I ate standing at the counter, fork picking at broccoli, replaying potential dialogues. "Why this company?" I'd ask, watching his reaction. Pour wine, glass stem cool in my hand, sipping slowly to steady nerves. This wasn't just an interview, it was the reckoning. Months of no contact, and now this collision. Wednesday passed in a haze of anticipation. I arrived early, changed into a power suit, tailored blazer, heels that clicked authoritatively on the marble lobby floor. Greeted the receptionist with a nod, her smile bright as she handed me mail. Up in the elevator, mirrors reflecting my determined expression, jaw set. In the office, I reviewed the merger updates, success rolling in, but today, personal stakes overshadowed. Sarah popped in mid-morning, carrying a stack of files, her sneakers squeaking on the floor. Everything good for tomorrow? I rescheduled like you asked. No questions from the team. I nodded, taking the files, my fingers brushing hers briefly. Perfect, keep it quiet. She lingered a second, head tilted. If you need backup. I waved it off, smiling genuinely this time. I've got it, thanks. The morning dragged, each hour amplifying the butterflies in my stomach. I tried to focus on emails, cursor blinking on the screen as I typed responses, but my mind wandered back to the application discovery. It was like fate had handed me a script flip, him walking into my domain, blind to the power dynamics. I pushed away from the desk, standing to stretch, arms raising overhead, muscles pulling taut. The view from the window showed the city bustling below, people hurrying like ants, unaware of the drama unfolding up here. I pressed my forehead against the cool glass, breathing deeply, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Calm. Control. This was my chance to detach fully, to make them confront the years of imbalance. Lunch was a salad at my desk, fork spearing leaves mechanically, dressing dripping onto the container. I scrolled news on my phone, but the words blurred, replaced by visions of Jake's face when he saw me. Shock? Anger? Apology? The unknown gnawed at me, my foot bouncing under the desk, heel tapping softly. Afternoon meetings provided distraction, pitching to investors via video, my voice confident as I highlighted growth charts, pointer laser dot dancing on the screen. They applauded, virtual claps echoing, but my smile was automatic, thoughts on tomorrow. By end of day I gathered my things, bag strap slipping over my shoulder, the leather soft against my skin. The office emptied, lights dimming in sections, a janitor vacuuming in the hall with a low hum. In the parking garage, I unlocked my car, key fob beeping and slid in, seat adjusting automatically. The drive home was traffic jammed, brake lights flaring red ahead, my hands drumming the wheel. At a stoplight, I checked my reflection in the visor mirror, eyes fierce, ready. This call from fate, this twist, changed everything. No more hiding. Tomorrow, the confrontation would reveal not just my success but their failures. As I pulled into my driveway, the garage door rumbling up, a quiet certainty settled. Whatever happened, I'd emerge stronger. Whatever happened, I'd emerge stronger. The next morning, Thursday, dawned crisp and clear, the kind of San Francisco day that promised possibility but delivered fog by noon. I woke early, the alarm beeping softly on my nightstand, and lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling fan's lazy spin. My heart rate picked up as reality hit. Today was the interview. Jake would arrive at 10 a.m., clueless, stepping into the lion's den I'd built. I swung my legs out of bed, feet hitting the cool hardwood, and padded to the bathroom. The mirror fogged from the hot shower, but I wiped it clear, studying my reflection. Composed, ready. No makeup beyond the basics. Lip gloss applied with a steady hand, hair pulled into a professional bun, strands tucked neatly. Breakfast was oatmeal, spooned mechanically while I reviewed notes on my phone, the screen glowing in the kitchen light. Questions like, "Tell me about a challenge you've overcome," would segue into deeper probes. I wasn't here for hiring. This was exposure. Dressed in the same power suit from yesterday, blazer buttoned snugly, I grabbed my keys, the jingle echoing in the quiet house. The drive to the office was smooth, traffic parting like it knew my mood. I parked in my reserved spot, heels clicking on concrete as I entered the building, nodding to the security guard who buzzed me through. Upstairs, the office hummed with activity, keyboards clacking, phones ringing faintly. Sarah met me at my door, coffee in hand for both of us, steam curling up. "He's due in 30, conference room 2 is set." I took the mug, ceramic warm against my palm, and sipped, the bitterness grounding me. "Thanks, hold my calls." She nodded, sensing the gravity, and left me to pace my office, footsteps muffled on the carpet. The clock ticked, 9:45, 9:50. At 9:55 the receptionist buzzed, "Mr. Harlan is here." My pulse quickened, but I breathed deep, smoothing my blazer. "Send him to conference room 2, I'll be there shortly. I waited 5 minutes deliberately, gathering the printed resume, fingers tracing the edges. Then I walked down the hall, each step measured, passing glass-walled offices where teams collaborated unaware. The conference room door was ajar. I pushed it open, the hinge silent. There he was, Jake, seated at the long table in a rumpled suit that looked borrowed, tie slightly askew. He stood quickly, chair scraping back, extending a hand with that trademark smile. "Hi, I'm Jake Harlan, thanks for..." His words died as recognition hit, eyes widening, hand freezing midair. Color drained from his face, with Adam's apple bobbing as he swallowed hard. "Lauren?" he whispered, dropping his hand, stepping back until his calves hit the chair. I closed the door with a soft click, the sound final, and moved to the head of the table, setting down the resume with a deliberate thud. "Sit, Jake." My voice was calm, almost gentle but laced with steel. He hesitated, then sank into the seat, hands clasping on the table to hide the tremble. I remained standing for a moment, letting the silence stretch. The room's AC humming lowly. The view outside showed the bay, boats dotting the water, but inside tension crackled. "What? How?" he stammered, eyes darting to the door like he might bolt. I sat finally, crossing my legs, hands folded atop his resume. "Nexus Connect, my company. I founded it, built it from nothing, and you applied for a job here." His mouth opened, closed, a fish out of water. Sweat beaded on his forehead, he wiped it with a sleeve, fabric rustling. "I didn't know, I swear. The posting, it sounded good. Good." After mocking my computer stuff, I leaned forward slightly, elbows on the table. "Why this role? What makes you qualified?" He shifted, chair creaking, buying time by adjusting his tie. My experience in marketing, creative campaigns, I can bring fresh ideas." "Fresh ideas, like his failed podcast?" I nodded slowly, flipping a page on the resume, pen tapping lightly. "Tell me about a time you faced favoritism at work. How did you handle it?" The question hung, pointed. His eyes narrowed, confusion turning to wariness. "Favoritism? What does that have to do with?" I cut him off, voice even. "Everything. Because our family thrived on it. You were the golden child, Jake. Every win celebrated, every failure excused. Me? Invisible unless I dimmed myself." He flushed, hands clenching into fists on the table, knuckles whitening. "That's not fair. Mom and Dad they supported us differently." "Differently?" I laughed softly, a bitter edge leaning back. "Supported? They banned me from Christmas so you wouldn't feel small, overshadowed by my existence." His gaze dropped to the table, tracing the wood grain with a finger, avoiding my eyes. "That was their call. I didn't ask for it." But he hadn't protested, had he? "You benefited," I said, voice rising just a notch. "Years of it. My valedictorian speech, ignored for your soccer practice, Stanford scholarship, eclipsed by your promising art, and now you waltz in here, expecting a handout from the empire I built while you coasted." Jake's head snapped up, eyes flashing now, defensiveness kicking in. "Coasted? I've tried, it's not easy out there." He gestured wildly, hands slicing the air. "You think I wanted their pity? It suffocates me too." "Suffocates," first admission. I pressed. "Then why not break free? Why apply here, unknowingly begging from the sister you helped exile?" He slumped, rubbing his face, palm scraping stubble. "I need a job, bills piling up, didn't know it was yours." The vulnerability flickered, but resentment lingered in his posture, shoulders hunched. The confrontation deepened, words flowing like a dam breaking. I stood, pacing slowly behind my chair, hands gesturing as I spoke. "It's not just the ban, Jake, it's decades of hypocrisy. They made me small so you could feel big, and you let it happen, smirking at dinners, taking the praise." He shook his head, voice cracking. "I was a kid, what was I supposed to do?" "Grow up," I shot back, stopping to face him, hands on the table's edge. "Acknowledge it, apologize, instead you show up here, resume full of fluff." He winced, glancing at the paper, then met my eyes, a mix of shame and anger. "Fine, it's padded. Happy? But you're no saint, rubbing your success in now." "Rubbing?" I straightened, voice cold. "This isn't revenge, it's truth. Our family needs therapy, not more favoritism. I'll fund it, but only if everyone commits. Honesty, mutual respect." He stared, mouth agape, then nodded slowly, deflating. "Therapy? Mom and Dad would freak." "Let them," I said, sitting again, calmer now, "or stay dysfunctional, your choice." Silence fell heavy, broken by his sigh, hands unclenching. "I didn't realize how bad it was for you," first crack in the armor. The scramble came via phone, mine buzzed midway, Ellen's name flashing. I ignored it, but Jake's lit up next, him glancing guiltily. Probably them. I mentioned the interview. Of course, I nodded. Answer, put it on speaker. He did, fingers fumbling the button. Ellen's voice burst out frantic. Jake, how's it going? Did you wow them? He looked at me, swallowing. Mom, Lauren's the CEO. Dead air, then chaos, her gasp, Tom's voice in background. What, Lauren? They scrambled, words tumbling. Honey, that's great, maybe she can help. Hypocrisy peak. I leaned toward the phone. Help? After banning me? No, we're done with games. Therapy or nothing. Ellen stuttered. But, family. I ended the call, button pressing firmly. Jake stared, stunned. I stood, gathering papers. Exposed it. Go home, think. Doors open for change. He rose shakily, chair pushing back, and left without another word, door clicking shut. Alone, I exhaled, hands trembling now, the adrenaline faded. Powerful exit? Mine was internal, walking back to my office, head high, the confrontation a catharsis. Not revenge, but a path forward. They'd scramble more, but on my terms. They'd scramble more, but on my terms. In the days following the interview, the calls came relentlessly. Ellen leaving voicemails that swung from pleading to accusatory, Tom texting links to articles about family reconciliation, even Jake sending a tentative, "Can we talk?" I didn't respond immediately, letting the silence speak for me. Instead, I focused on the merger's rollout. Board meetings, where I presented confidently, pointer clicking through slides, the team's applause a balm to the raw edges left by the confrontation. But that weekend, I needed something real. A reset away from the corporate grind and family fallout. That's when I organized a small gathering with my chosen allies, Sarah and a couple of close friends from the tech world, people who'd become my surrogate family through late-night coding sessions and shared triumph. It wasn't planned as a contrast to the toxicity I'd escaped, but as we came together that Saturday evening at my place, the difference hit me like sunlight after a storm. The sun was dipping low over the bay, casting a golden hue through my living room windows, when the doorbell rang first. I smoothed my casual sweater, sleeves pushed up to my elbows, and opened the door to Sarah, who held up a bottle of Pinot Noir with a grin. Figured we could use this after the week you've had. Her eyes searched mine briefly, knowing about the interview without the full details. I'd confided just enough. I took the bottle, the glass cool against my palm, and hugged her, her ponytail brushing my cheek. You have no idea. She stepped in, kicking off her sneakers by the door, the thud soft on the entry mat. The house smelled of the lasagna I'd baked, layers of cheese bubbling under the oven light, garlic bread warming beside it. I'd set the table simply, cloth napkins folded neatly, candles flickering in holders, soft jazz playing from the speakers. Next came Mia and Alex, a couple I'd met at a startup incubator years ago. Mia, with her wild curls tied back, carried a salad bowl covered in foil, while Alex balanced dessert boxes from a local bakery. We brought reinforcements, Mia said, laughing as she handed over the bowl, her rings clinking against the glass. Alex clapped me on the back, his grip firm and reassuring. Heard it's been intense. Ready to unwind? I nodded, closing the door behind them, the lock clicking into place. We migrated to the kitchen, where I poured wine, glasses filling with a rich red swirl, the glug echoing warmly. Sarah uncorked hers with a pop, raising it in a mock toast. To surviving family drama and killer mergers. We clinked glasses, the sound bright, laughter bubbling up as we sipped, the wine tart on my tongue. As we settled around the dining table, plates clattering as we served ourselves, spoons scooping lasagna, forks spearing salad, the conversation flowed effortlessly, no undercurrents of judgment. Mia leaned forward, elbows on the table, her fork gesturing. So spill, how'd the big reveal go with your brother? I'd texted them vague updates, enough to loop them in without details. I set down my glass, wiping my mouth with a napkin, the fabric soft against my lips. Shocked him senseless. Walked in expecting a standard interview, found me at the head of the table. Alex chuckled, cutting into his lasagna, steam rising. Bet his face was priceless, wish I could have seen it. Sarah nodded, chewing thoughtfully. He bolted pretty quick after. You okay? Her concern was genuine, eyes steady on mine, no pity, just support. I poked at my food, the cheese stretching as I lifted a bite, then met their gazes. Yeah, actually, it was raw but necessary. Years of built-up crap aired out. We talked through it, me recounting the tense dialogue, hands mimicking Jake's defensive gestures, voice dropping to imitate his stammer. They listened, interrupting only with empathetic nods or questions like Mia's. Did he even apologize? I shook my head, sipping wine. Not really, but admitting the favoritism suffocated him too. That was something. Alex leaned back, chair creaking, arms crossing. Sounds like a start. Families are messy, but you don't have to carry it alone. The words landed softly, a contrast to the family's for the sake excuses. Here, no one diminished my feelings, they amplified them. The evening deepened, candles burning lower, wax pooling at the bases. We cleared plates, the clink of dishes in the sink as Sarah rinsed while I loaded the dishwasher, suds bubbling under the faucet. Mia wiped the table, cloth swishing across wood, and Alex queued up a playlist, upbeat tunes replacing jazz. We moved to the couch, desserts opened, chocolate cake sliced with a knife that scraped the plate, forks diving in. Laughter erupted over shared stories, Sarah recounting a botched pitch where her slides glitched, mimicking her panic with wide eyes and flailing hands. I just stood there, clicking like a maniac. We howled, my sides aching, a release I hadn't felt in months. Mia shared her latest venture flop turned success, voice animated, curls bouncing. Thought it was over, but pivoted, boom, funding round closed, high fives around, palms slapping warmly. In the lulls, deeper moments surfaced. I confessed the lingering hurt, voice quieter, staring at my cake crumbs. Banning me from Christmas, it still stings, like I was the problem. Sarah squeezed my shoulder, hand warm and steady. You weren't, they chose dysfunction. Look at what you've built, us included. Alex nodded, fork pausing midair. Chosen family, right? We're here because we see you, Lauren, the real you, Mia added, and we celebrate it, no overshadowing bullshit. The profanity hung, then we laughed again, the word cutting the tension perfectly. It was appreciation without strings, genuine, rooted in mutual respect. No backhanded compliments, just affirmations like Sarah's, "You're a badass CEO and friend." As the night wound down, stars visible through the window, we hugged goodbye at the door. Mia lingered, whispering, "Proud of you for standing up." Alex waved from the driveway, car lights flashing. Sarah was last, coat on, smiling. "Text if you need to vent more." I closed the door, leaning against it, the wood cool on my back. The house felt fuller, echoes of laughter lingering. Cleaning up, I blew out candles, smoke curling up, and stacked glasses, the clink satisfying. In bed later, sheets rustling as I settled, the contrast crystallized. Family's toxicity had been cold, conditional love wrapped in favoritism. This gathering, warm, unconditional support, laughter that healed. It wasn't just a dinner. It was affirmation that I'd chosen right, detaching from blood ties that bound too tight, embracing bonds that lifted. The family's scramble continued via ignored messages, but here in this circle, I was seen, valued. It fueled me forward toward boundaries that would protect this peace. The Monday after that gathering, the family's scramble intensified, shifting from sporadic messages to a coordinated assault that tested my resolve. I'd just wrapped a morning stand-up with the team, the conference room still smelling of fresh coffee and whiteboard markers, when my phone buzzed insistently on my desk. I glanced at the screen. Ellen, calling for the third time that day. My finger hovered over decline, but something shifted. Ignoring forever wasn't sustainable. If I wanted real change, not just detachment, I had to engage on my terms. I let it ring once more, steadying my breath, then answered, putting it on speaker as I paced my office, the carpet muffling my steps. "What do you want, Mom?" My voice was even, no warmth, no anger, just fact. She jumped in without preamble, her words tumbling out breathless. "Lauren, finally, we've been worried sick. Jake told us everything about the job, the company. Honey, why didn't you say, we're so proud?" Proud? The word twisted in my gut like a knife. I stopped pacing, leaning against the windowsill, fingers pressing into the cool metal frame. The city sprawled below, cars crawling like ants, a reminder of the world I'd built beyond them. Proud now? Convenient, after banning me because my success made Jake uncomfortable. Silence on her end, then a soft sigh, the kind she used when handling me as a kid. "That was a mistake. We see that now. Come home, let's talk. Family dinner this weekend?" I laughed quietly, shaking my head even though she couldn't see. "No, Mom, no more dinners where I pretend everything's fine. If you want to talk, it's on my rules." She hesitated, her breathing audible through the line. "Rules? What do you mean?" I straightened, moving back to my desk, chair rolling as I sat, the leather sighing under me. This was it, the moment to establish the fortress, brick by brick. First, no more favoritism, no gushing over Jake while dismissing me. Second, therapy. All of us, professional sessions. I'll pay, I'll arrange, but you commit. Her response was immediate, defensive. Therapy? We're not broken, Lauren, we just need to communicate. Not broken? I gripped the phone tighter, knuckles paling against the black case. We are broken. Decades of it. You made me the villain for succeeding, the outsider for not needing your coddling. Jake gets endless chances, I get criticism. She started to interrupt, voice rising. That's not. But I cut her off, firm but calm. Third rule, honesty. Admit the patterns, no gaslighting, no we supported you both equally, because you didn't. The line crackled with tension, her end quiet except for faint background noise, probably Tom listening in, his chair creaking as he shifted. Finally, she spoke, softer. This feels like an ultimatum. It is, I replied, no apology. Take it or leave it, I'm done shrinking. She murmured something to Tom, voices muffled as if she'd covered the receiver, hand pressing against the speaker. Then, back to me. We'll think about it, but Lauren, your family, blood. Blood. The word hung, but it didn't pull like before. Blood doesn't excuse toxicity, call when you're ready. I hung up, the click decisive, and set the phone face down, screen dark. My hands trembled slightly, adrenaline fading, so I stood again, pouring water from the pitcher on my side table, the liquid glugging into the glass. Sipping slowly, the coolness soothing my throat, I felt the weight of that conversation settle, not as burden, but as foundation. Boundaries weren't walls to keep them out forever. They were gates I controlled. The aftermath rippled through the week, testing those new rules in real time. Tom texted next, a long message about bridging gaps, but laced with subtle blame. You've achieved so much, maybe share some grace. Grace? I'd given grace for years, I replied curtly. Grace starts with accountability. Therapy, yes or no? He didn't respond for hours, then a simple discussing. Jake emailed, surprising, since he hated writing, apologizing vaguely. Sorry for the past, can I still apply elsewhere in your company? My fingers hovered over the keyboard, nails tapping keys without pressing. No, not yet. Focus on family first, I typed back. Therapy is the path. Sending it, the whoosh sound from my laptop, I closed the lid, pushing it aside. Each interaction was a micro-battle, their attempts to reconnect, probing for weaknesses in my fortress. By midweek, Ellen tried again, this time with a voicemail I played on speaker while prepping lunch in the office kitchen. Salad leaves crunching under my knife. Lauren, we're open to therapy, but let's meet first, neutral ground. Coffee? Neutral ground. Smart, but still their play. I called back, fork midway to my mouth, lettuce dripping dressing onto the plate. No meeting without a therapist present. I found one, group sessions, virtual to start. Link incoming. She protested, voice wavering. Virtual? It's so impersonal. It's safe, I countered, setting down the fork with a clink. No home turf advantage, agree or not? More muffled consultation, then reluctant acceptance. Fine, send the link. Establishing this felt like constructing a moat, deliberate, protective. I researched therapists that evening at home, laptop on my lap as I sat cross-legged on the couch, the screen's glow illuminating my face. Clicking through profiles, mouse scrolling smoothly, I chose one specializing in family dynamics, favoritism scars. Booking the first session, calendar invite pinging, I felt empowered, not vindictive. This wasn't punishment, it was repair. Forced but necessary. Their initial resistance showed in delayed RSVPs, but by Friday, all confirmed. Jake's, yes, terse, Tom's polite, Ellen's with an emoji heart that felt forced. The weekend brought internal tests too, alone with my thoughts during a run in the park, shoes pounding pavement. Sweat beading on my forehead, doubts crept in. Was I too harsh? The rhythm of my breath steadied me. No, this was self-preservation. Wiping my brow with my sleeve, fabric damp, I pushed harder, legs burning. Back home, shower steam filling the bathroom, water cascading over me, I visualized the fortress. Strong walls, but a drawbridge for genuine effort. Drying off, towel rough against skin, I checked my phone, no new pleas, just quiet acceptance. It worked. By week's end, the first session loomed, but the aftermath of that initial call had solidified my rules. No more unannounced visits. Ellen hinted at one, but I shut it down. Boundaries, Mom. No guilting over holidays. We'll see after therapy. Each enforcement, like blocking a probing text mid-type, reinforced the shift. They adapted slowly, messages turning less demanding, more tentative. Jake even asked, "What book's on this stuff?" I recommended one, hitting send with a sense of progress. Handling this aftermath wasn't dramatic explosions but quiet assertions, each one stacking like stones. My chosen allies cheered via group chat. Sarah's thumbs up, Mia's you got this. It protected the peace I'd found, ensuring any reconnection was healthy, not habitual toxicity. The fortress stood, gates guarded, ready for whatever came next. The fortress stood, gates guarded, ready for whatever came next. That first therapy session, held virtually a week later, was like cracking open a long sealed vault, dusty, uncomfortable, but necessary for any real treasure to emerge. I logged in from my home office, the screen dividing into 4 quadrants. Me in my swivel chair, Ellen and Tom huddled on their couch, Jake slouched in what looked like his apartment kitchen. The therapist, Dr. Ramirez, a calm woman with wire-rimmed glasses, greeted us warmly, her voice steady through the speakers. "Let's start with why we're here," she said, pen poised over a notepad visible in her feed. I spoke first, voice clear, hands folded in my lap to hide the slight fidget. Years of favoritism. Jake got the spotlight, I got sidelined. It built resentment, and I'm using my position now to force change. Ellen shifted on the couch, her hand reaching for Tom's, fingers intertwining tightly. "We didn't mean to favor," she said, but Dr. Ramirez gently probed. "What did that look like in practice?" The stories spilled, my overlooked achievements, Jake's padded praises. Jake admitted, eyes downcast. "It felt good at the time, but it messed me up too, always comparing." Tom nodded slowly, his free hand rubbing his knee. "It wasn't magic. Arguments flared like when Ellen defended, 'We just wanted balance,' and I countered, 'Balance meant dimming me.' But by session's end, homework assigned, journaling patterns, the air felt lighter, a tentative step. Sessions continued bi-weekly, each one peeling layers. I attended every one. Webcam on, notes app open on my second monitor, typing key insights as they arose. Dr. Ramirez guided with questions that cut deep. "How did that make you feel, Lauren?" I'd pause, staring at the ceiling fan's spin, then admit, invisible, angry. Jake shared his side, pressure to perform the golden role, voice cracking once as he said, "I envied your independence." Ellen cried in session 3, tissues crumpling in her fist, apologizing for the ban. "We were wrong, scared of losing Jake." Tom followed, voice gruff. "Didn't see the damage." Apologies weren't perfect, laced with justifications at first, but they evolved. By month 2, we role-played healthier interactions, me practicing boundaries like, "I won't discuss work if it's to compare." The virtual format helped, no physical space to dominate, just equal squares on a screen. Parallel to this, I channeled my corporate influence into something bigger, reclaiming the Harlan name not through bitterness but positive impact. Nexus had always been about connections, but now, inspired by my journey, I launched an initiative, the Equity Network, a program within the app for underrepresented professionals to access mentors, funding, and therapy resources. It started with a team meeting in our boardroom, glass walls overlooking the city, as I pitched it. "We've connected millions," I said, markers squeaking on the whiteboard as I sketched pillars. "Now let's address imbalances like familial or systemic favoritism that hold people back." Sarah nodded enthusiastically, her laptop open, typing notes. "Tie in mental health support?" "Exactly," I replied, capping the marker with a click. We budgeted $1 million from the merger windfall, my signature on the approval form steady, ink flowing smoothly. The launch was internal first. A company-wide email I drafted late one night, desk lamp casting shadows, keyboard clacking. "Today we reclaim legacies," it read, attaching details on free therapy sessions for employees dealing with family dynamics. Responses flooded in. Gratitude from a dev team member. "This hits home, my sibling's story." Externally, we rolled it out at a virtual conference, me on stage in a sleek venue, spotlights warm on my skin, microphone humming as I spoke. Harlan isn't just my name, it's a symbol now of breaking cycles. The audience, pixels on screens worldwide, applauded via chat emojis raining down. Partnerships followed, with mental health orgs, my calls to execs crisp, negotiating terms while sipping tea, mug steam rising. Personally, reclaiming meant small acts too. I donated to scholarships under the Harlan Foundation, a new entity I set up, paperwork stacked on my desk, stamps thumping as I sealed envelopes. One went to a STEM program for overlooked siblings inspired by my past. Funded by Lauren Harlan, the plaque would read, "No hiding." Jake noticed during a session break messaging privately, saw the foundation news, cool. Our dynamic shifted. He got a steady job elsewhere, not mine, updating us in therapy with pride, voice firmer. "No handouts," he said, and I smiled at the screen, a real one, lips curving genuinely. Impact rippled outward. Users shared stories on Nexus forums. This program helped me confront my family's bias. I read them during lunches, sandwich in hand, crumbs falling on my keyboard. One email stood out. "A young woman like me, your story inspired me to set boundaries," I replied personally, fingers typing thoughtfully. Media picked up. An interview request from a tech mag, me in their studio, lights bright, answering, "Success isn't revenge, it's reclamation." The article headline, Lauren Harlan, From Family Outcast to Equity Pioneer. Clipping it, I pinned it mentally, not for ego but proof. Therapy progressed, moving to in-person once trust built. We met at Dr. Ramirez's office, neutral ground with plush chairs arranged in a circle, coffee table holding tissues and water glasses. Ellen hugged me tentatively upon arrival, her arms light, perfume familiar. "Progress," she whispered. Sessions dug deeper. Childhood photos shared via phone, fingers scrolling to show young me with trophies, Jake with toys. "See the patterns," Dr. Ramirez said. Tears flowed, mine included, wiping with a tissue that shredded slightly in my grip. But healing emerged. Family dinners resumed, cautious, at a restaurant midway between us. I drove there one evening, hands on the wheel relaxed, arriving to smiles, no digs. "Tell us about the foundation," Tom asked genuinely, fork pausing. I did, words flowing, their nods attentive. Reclaiming the name meant honoring the good too. Harlan grit, perhaps inherited. I hosted a small event for the foundation. Venue buzzing with attendees, my speech from a podium, voice amplified. We turned pain into purpose. Jake attended, clapping from the crowd, our eyes meeting with understanding. Afterward, he approached, hand extended for a shake that turned into a hug, brief but real. "Proud of you, sis." Sis. Now it warmed. By summer's end, the initiative had funded 500 scholarships, therapy for 200 users. Metrics on my dashboard ticked up, mouse hovering as I reviewed. But the true impact? Internal? Peace in family calls, Ellen asking about my day without pivoting to Jake. I walked my office halls, heels echoing, seeing the Harlan legacy anew, not dysfunction, but drive. This wasn't erasing the past, it was overwriting it, on my terms. The positive ripple, letters, donations matching mine, affirmed it. One night, journaling as homework, pen scratching paper, I wrote, "Harlan means resilience now." Closing the notebook, cover snapping shut, I felt whole. I felt whole. That wholeness crystallized not in a boardroom or therapy Zoom, but during a solitary evening walk along the waterfront promenade in San Francisco, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. It was late summer, the air still warm, but with a hint of fall's crispness nipping at the edges, and I'd left the office early for once, craving the simplicity of movement and quiet. Therapy had become routine by then. Sessions where we'd dissect old wounds, like Ellen admitting her fear of Jake failing, mirrored her own regrets, her voice trembling as she twisted a ring on her finger. Jake sharing how the favoritism had left him ill-equipped for real challenges, his hands gesturing emphatically on screen. Tom nodding along, his usual gruffness softening into reluctant vulnerability. The family was healing. Dinners now balanced with genuine curiosity about my life, no more subtle digs. But that walk was for me, a moment to reflect without agenda, to sift through the journey's remnants and find the core truth. I parked near the Embarcadero, the engine ticking as it cooled, and stepped out, lacing my sneakers tighter, the strings pulling snug against my insteps. The promenade stretched ahead, paved and smooth, joggers passing with rhythmic footfalls, cyclists whizzing by with bells tinkling. I started walking, arms swinging loosely at my sides, the salt-tinged breeze ruffling my hair, carrying the distant clang of cable cars and seals barking from the piers. My pace was unhurried, each step a deliberate placement, heel down, toe push-off, grounding me in the present. Thoughts drifted in like the tide lapping at the barriers below, gentle at first. The ban had been the spark. That dining room confrontation where Ellen's words landed like stones, her eyes avoiding mine as she fidgeted with her napkin. It forced detachment, but more. It revealed how I'd tied my worth to their approval, dimming myself to fit their narrative. As the path curved, following the bay's edge, I paused at a bench, wood weathered under my hands as I gripped the backrest, fingers tracing splintered grains. The water sparkled, boats bobbing with soft creaks, and I breathed deeply, chest expanding, lungs filling with briny air. My success at Nexus wasn't revenge, it was proof of internal drive. The late night's coding, screen glow illuminating my face, fingers cramping but persistent. Therapy had been my tool of strength, as not spite. I'd arranged it, emailing links with steady clicks, funding it from personal accounts, statements printing with whirs from the machine. It compelled honesty. Jake's raw confession of resentment toward my independence, his fist clenching subtly on camera, Ellen's tears during a breakthrough, tissues dabbing at her cheeks. Mutual respect emerged, but as I resumed walking, sneakers scuffing pavement, I realized the peace wasn't dependent on their progress. The sun lowered further, its reflection rippling on the water like molten gold, and I quickened my steps slightly, feeling the burn in my thighs. Self-validation hit then, a quiet epiphany amid the promenade's hum. My worth was internal, born from the girl who aced tests alone, pencils sharpening with twists, not for praise but knowledge. The family's favoritism had wounded, yes, Jake's smirks across tables, Tom's grunts dismissing my milestones, but it didn't define me. I'd used position for good, launching the foundation, checks signed with flourishing pen strokes, impacting lives beyond ours. But true peace? It flowed from knowing I was enough, unvalidated by others. No more chasing echoes of approval. I validated myself, in boardrooms where my voice commanded, in quiet hikes where thoughts aligned. I stopped at a viewpoint, railing cool under my palms as I leaned forward, elbows locking. Gulls wheeled overhead, cries piercing, and a smile tugged my lips, genuine and unforced. The journey's arc, rejection to confrontation to therapy, had led here, to self-reliance. If family faltered, I'd grieve but stand, roots deep in my own soil. Turning back, the path now shadowed, I walked with lighter steps, arms relaxed, the evening's chill prompting a quickened pace. Streetlights flickered on, globes humming to life, casting warm pools. Back at the car, key turning in ignition with a click, engine purring, I drove home, windows cracked, wind whispering. The reflection sealed it. Worth internal, peace mine, no external force could dim that light now. The evening continued quietly at home, reinforcing the realization. I brewed tea, kettle whistling sharply, steam curling as I poured into a mug, hands wrapping around ceramic warmth. Sitting on the balcony, legs crossed, the city lights twinkling below like stars, I journaled, pen scratching paper, words flowing. My value isn't in forcing change or building empires, it's in me, always was. The ink dried, page turning with a soft rustle, and I set it aside, sipping tea, the herbal flavor soothing. Calls from Ellen came less fraught now, her voice warmer on voicemails, but I didn't need them for fulfillment. Jake's updates texted with emojis showed growth, but my peace remained independent. As night deepened, stars faint against city glow, I stretched, arms raising overhead, muscles pulling taut. This internal shift was the ultimate validation, no fanfare, just quiet certainty. The family's path toward health was a bonus, born from my strength, but the core? Unshakable self-worth. Sleeping that night, sheets cool on skin, dreams light. I woke renewed, ready for whatever came, anchored within. Have you ever felt overshadowed in your own family, like your achievements were dimmed to let someone else shine? That's where my story started. But it ended with reclaiming my power through boundaries, confrontation, and forced therapy. It wasn't easy, detaching from decades of favoritism, using my CEO position to demand change, but it built healthier relationships on honesty and respect. If you've faced similar dysfunction, whether it's a favored sibling or emotional neglect, know you're not alone. Share your experiences in the comments below. What was your breaking point, and how did you flip the script? Your stories could inspire others, just like mine did for me. So what do you think? Did I push for therapy too forcefully, or not forcefully enough? Drop a comment below, let's discuss. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more real-life tales of triumph over toxicity. Remember, your worth isn't defined by others, it's within you. Claim it, nurture it, and watch how it transforms everything.